Bonjour à tous et à tous, et merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui. Nous sommes ravis de votre présence et vous remercions d'avoir pris le temps de participer à ce webinaire. Je m'appelle Charles Chemirai-Nyabeze, directeur des réseaux de l'accélérateur de commercialisation des innovations minières, ou MICA. Je suis très heureux d'être avec vous aujourd'hui, aux côtés de mes collègues Douglas Morrison et Carl McCall, pour partager notre vision de la plateforme canadienne de déploiement de l'innovation minière. Veuillez noter que le webinaire en français aura lieu aujourd'hui à 16h à 17h et qu'il sera avec mes amis collègues Alain Tiviage and Francesca Rio. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're delighted to have you with us and appreciate you taking the time to participate in this webinar. My name is Charles Chemirai-Nyabeze, and I'm the Network Director for the Mining Innovation Commercialization Accelerator Network, or MICA. I'm very pleased to be with you today alongside my colleagues, Douglas Morrison and Kamal Cole, who will speak to you in a moment, to share our vision for Canada's mining innovation deployment platform. Please note that the French webinar will take place today from 4:00 p.m. to 5:00 p.m. and will be hosted by my colleagues, Alain Tiviage and Francesca Rios. But before we get into the presentation, we'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement. The Center for Excellence in Mining Innovation is located on the traditional land, is headquartered in the city of Greater Sudbury, respectfully acknowledges that we are operating on the traditional lands of the Atikmashik, Anishinaabeg, and Wanapiteh First Nations within the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850 territory. This territory is recognized as the traditional home of the Anishinaabe people who have been guardians and stewards of this land since time immemorial. CEMI also recognizes that the land we live and work on across Canada are the traditional territories of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We acknowledge their enduring connection to these lands and waters, and we pay our respects to their ancestors and elders, past, present, and emerging. As we promote new opportunities within the mining sector, we commit to the spirit of reconciliation and to building meaningful, respectful partnerships with Indigenous communities from coast to coast. As customary in our mining industry, safety is of prime importance. So the safety share for today is potholes. Spring has arrived, but with the freeze-thaw cycle comes treacherous potholes. These road hazards can cause serious vehicle damage, blowouts, or even loss of control. Here's how to stay safe when driving through pothole season. Slow down, scan ahead, avoid swerving, brake before the pothole, keep both hands on the wheel. Please advance the slide. Thank you. This presentation is for the entire mining ecosystem. I want to let you know that on the call today, we have got registered over 500 people from coast to coast, representing all of the different organizations and institutions that make up the Canadian mining ecosystem. So very pleased to have you all on the call, and this presentation is for you. Why? Why are we here? Scaling up MICA, renewal of MICA, is of prime importance to the Canadian mining industry, and we want to show you how you can participate and want to demonstrate to you the results that we have had to date through MICA-1, and we also want to share with you the vision for the MICA-2 network, including introducing to you new initiatives, ecosystem partnerships that we intend to have, and ending with a call to action. But before I move forward, I want to introduce Douglas Morrison, our President and CEO, who is going to speak to you about CEMI's strategic market perspective. Douglas, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Yes, so I wanted to take a few minutes just to explain our strategic market perspective, which is basically that we believe that Canadian mining SMEs are the most prolific innovators in the global mining business. And MICA's goal is to increase their participation in the global mining supply chains by increasing the number and scale of companies that are involved. MICA funds Canadian SMEs to complete operational demonstrations of their innovations and so help them to commercialize their intellectual property. Mining in Canada is slow to adopt innovation, and achieving global sales for SMEs is difficult. So to help those SMEs accelerate export revenue, MICA provides global soft landing business-to-business events in the major mining markets. 65% of all mining jobs in the industry are in the SMEs. And new mines, although they will be very important in the long term, they take years to develop. So increasing export revenue in the SMEs is the fastest way to increase mining's contribution to the Canadian economy. 90% of S&P 500's asset value is intangible in IP and other intangibles. And while Canada will always remain a major producer of critical minerals, MICA's goal is for Canadian IP to drive the future of the global mining business. And with that, I will hand you back to my colleagues to continue their presentation for the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas, for providing that strategic market perspective from the CEMI perspective. So moving on, next slide. Global mining trends are not only just global mining trends. In fact, they're industry mining trends that are currently shaping the global mining sector. So we can all agree that the mining industry is under pressure for increasing productivity and lowering costs. The energy transition demands more from the mining industry. There's a critical mineral demand for energy minerals, defense minerals, and there's proliferation right now of AI technologies into the mining industry. The industry is being challenged to reduce environmental impact, to embody circularity principles in the work that the industry does, and to contribute to addressing climate change. Our industry is under pressure from workforce pressures, where we are seeing a reduction in the number of skilled labor that we need to sustain our industry. And then also geopolitically, we all can see the geopolitical pressures that are causing us to have more local supply chain resilience in the mining sector. So these are some of the global trends that are shaping the mining industry. And in terms of alignment with the Government of Canada priorities, what we are seeing is that the MICA network and the mining industry has alignment with the national priorities of the Canadian government. In fact, MICA is currently funded by the Strategic Innovation Fund, which is part of Innovation, Science and Economic Development. The Strategic Response Fund itself is under the directorship of Denny Mattel. And with these national priorities, we're seeing big pressure for critical minerals, clean technologies, productivity and competitiveness, digital transformation, defense and dual use, indigenous participation, and climate change. On the critical mineral side, we can see organizations like NRCan playing a critical role. Under the clean technologies, we see NRC playing a critical role with IRAP. And under productivity and competitiveness and digital transformation, ISED is playing a huge role in these areas as well. And so these alignment with the government priorities are allowing us to continue to have a MICA network that can add value to the ecosystem. Now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kyle McCall, who's going to speak to you about MICA-1 and what we've been able to achieve. Over to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Chairman. So I get the fun task of talking to you all about what we've accomplished so far. So let's start from the beginning. MICA was established in 2021 and launched in 2022 with the purpose of accelerating the commercialization of innovative made-in-Canada mining technologies and connecting mining technologies, companies, innovators, research institutions, and other organizations supporting innovation into a pan-Canadian network, again with the focus of advancing the adoption of new mining solutions. Fast forward to today, and the network has grown significantly, and the projects we've supported have generated tremendous results. Here's what those look like. We took $45 million from ISED and we invested it directly into Canada's mining innovation ecosystem. We supported 70 projects across Canada. 400 companies have been engaged through the MICA network, and 58 of our projects have already demonstrated commercial traction. For every dollar that we've put into a MICA project, we've been able to get $8 back which is a pretty incredible leverage. We've also seen 122 IP assets developed, 500 jobs created and maintained, $274 million in support of mining technologies mobilized. We've generated 21 partnerships, both globally and domestically, and we've engaged 9, or actually more than 9 mine operators with challenges, tech scouting, and solution matching. Diving a bit deeper into what this traction looks like, we see that companies have produced, of those 58 projects that have commercial traction, 6 have pilots, 31 have validated trials, and 21 have successfully deployed their solutions commercially. They are getting paid for their solution on site. And we expect these numbers to continue to increase as more projects mature and complete. As for who in the industry is engaging, this is a breakdown of what that engagement of our projects have received. You can see that a wide range of firms are involved, demonstrating that our projects are addressing real mining challenges and are finding deployment opportunities on site, both across Canada and globally. In terms of impacts on site, MICA-supported projects are making significant contributions to making the industry safer, more efficient, productive, and sustainable. Again, we expect these impacts to continue well into the future as projects are completed and deployed. Now, let's talk a little bit about catalyzing that investment. We're proud to share that the MICA projects funding has encouraged significant investment in made in Canada mining technologies. The $33 million that has gone into projects has leveraged over $188 million in investment into these innovative solutions. The companies that have received MICA funding have gone on to raise an additional $86 million in follow-on funding, with over half of that coming from the private sector. In total, MICA projects have mobilized over $274 million for innovative made in Canada mining technologies. Next, I would like to highlight a couple of the projects that MICA has supported. So with Rhythmic, if you haven't heard of these folks, I suggest you take a look at their website. Rhythmic Solutions, their project focused on the development of 2 AI-powered platforms, their Asset Health Analyzer and the Asset Performance Analyzer. These platforms have provided equipment performance to operators and generated significant savings in maintenance, repairs, and productivity, while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 15%. Again, keep an eye on these because they recently received $3 million in strategic investment from Hitachi. Next up, we have got Destiny Copper. Destiny Copper has developed a novel process and system for the efficient recovery of copper from waste solutions, eliminating harmful practices and recovering more than 99.9% of the copper left in waste streams. And if you know anything about the copper market right now and how demand that material is, or that mineral is, this is an important innovation. So they have gone on, they've had several patents awarded, they have offtake agreements for the powder that they're producing, and they've raised $9 million in follow-on funding, 5.5 of which is from private sector investment. Another company that demonstrates just how much AI is infiltrating the mining industry, Core AI. Core AI developed this geospatial risk platform that integrates real-time IoT sensors with INSAR satellite data to provide advanced ground motion monitoring. This little company out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, now has over $1 billion in assets under management. And as they grow and scale, we're very excited to see them rolling out several more AI solutions for the mining industry. Now, these are just 3 of the 70 projects MICA has supported. And I can tell you that these kinds of successes are being seen across the board. If I had more time, I would talk to you about every single one of them because they all get me excited. But we're also very proud of the companies that we've supported and the work that they have accomplished. Again, being leaders in Canadian mining technologies. The other thing that we were tasked with was creating a pan-Canadian network for mining innovation. And over the last 5 years, we've established that. It's extensive, it's pan-Canadian, and it has engaged over 300 SMEs, and also includes our main partners, BRIM, Innotech Alberta, Saskatchewan Polytechnic, Ethos Strategy, and the College North Atlantic. Together, our partners help us engage our ecosystem, companies, operators, and stakeholders, and support program delivery activities and events, creating opportunities for mining innovators across Canada. We're very proud of how the network has grown and how it illustrates the breadth of not just Canada's mining innovation ecosystem, which is extensive, but our country's overall innovation infrastructure. And now, if you know anything about mining, you also know that it is a global industry. And so over the last 4 years, under the leadership of my colleague Alain Tiverge, our VP Global Outreach, we've embarked on a significant campaign of international trade missions, both inbound and outbound. To date, we've taken Canadian mining companies on 12 trade missions to leading and emerging mining jurisdictions. We usually bring about 10 companies with us wherever we go. These trips have resulted in great opportunities for our participating companies. Joint ventures have been signed, companies have had the opportunity to submit proposals to mine operators, and several collaborations have been formed. We have also supported several inbound trade missions and delegations, welcoming friends from Germany, Australia, Kazakhstan, and many others to Canada. Now, it's important here to also acknowledge that the tremendous support that we have received from our friends at the Trade Commissioner Service, NRC IREP, Global Affairs Canada, and the EDC in putting these missions together. If you're on the line, we thank you for your assistance and your support, and I know that Alain's got more trips lined up. But for the companies on the line, this is something that MICA is really passionate about. Getting your Canadian mining technology onto sites across the world is a good thing and something that we want to do more of. Now, as we reflect on our experience delivering MICA, several important lessons have emerged. First, Canada has a strong foundation of mining innovation. We like to say that we are the global leaders. Across the country, we see promising technologies being developed by SMEs, research institutions, that are then supported by innovation centers and other ecosystem members. However, many of these technologies face challenges when trying to move toward real commercial deployment in mining operations. This commercialization gap remains one of the most significant barriers to innovation adoption. Another lesson is that Canada's innovation ecosystem includes many capable organizations. The more we travel this country, the more we realize what incredible capacity for R&D, talent development that these organizations have, and the networks that they have of their own that we can tap into. But these resources aren't always apparent, and it can sometimes be difficult for innovators to navigate all that is available to them. Finally, mining companies have consistently emphasized to us the importance of technologies being able to demonstrate clear operational value and reliability. In order to commercialize, companies need to be able to clearly articulate their value and impact on operations to move beyond pilot stage deployments. These insights have informed the design of the next phase of the program, which we call MICA-2. And so I'm going to hand it back over to Chamarai to walk you through our vision for the next iteration of MICA. Chamarai?
Thank you very much, Kyle, for that presentation. Also, thank you, Douglas, for sharing the market perspective. As you can see from the presentation from Kyle, the MICA network has had a significant impact on the Canadian economy. And I think one of the things that needs to be mentioned is that the amount of outreach we've done across the 10 provinces and 3 territories is quite significant, and it's something that is definitely Canada first. Building on the success of MICA-1, the Center for Excellence in Mining Innovation is advancing MICA-2, a proposed national initiative designed to accelerate deployment of mining technologies and strengthen Canada's mining innovation ecosystem. And on that note, we are asking the Government of Canada for a total of $148 million over 5 years so that we can co-invest with the private sector, the public sector, into demonstration, deployment, and scale up of made in Canada technologies that are going to hit the national and global markets. Our MICA-2 proposal focuses on TRL 7 to 9 technologies. TRL stands for Technology Readiness Level 7 to 9, which is the higher end of the technology readiness level scale. And also we're going to be focusing on network expansion activities. With MICA-2, we're going to be investing in a globally important cornerstone of Canada's mining economy, mining, positioning Canada as a global leader in mining innovation. This is an area where Canada can actually win, mining, delivering made in Canada technologies to the global economy. The world needs more of Canada, needs more made in Canada technologies. Convening meaningful collaborations in Canada and major mining markets, and coordinating global mining innovation ecosystem efforts, connecting the unconnected, providing support for mining innovation on an industrial scale. So why does MICA-2 matter? Well, mining is a strategic industrial lever for Canada. Canada's mining sector is a cornerstone of national economic security and global competitiveness. It connects critical mineral extraction to advanced manufacturing, clean technology deployment, and strategic supply chains that underpin our modern economy, defense capabilities, and also economic resilience. Can you advance the slide? Our slide control is not working from my end. Thank you. Appreciate it. Another area is commercial deployment gap. Canada excels, as Carl said earlier on. We excel as Canadians at early stage research and development, but we face a systemic challenge in bringing proven technologies to commercial scale. So strong R&D ecosystem, a bit weak when it comes to scale up and deployment, hence the need for MICA-2. The bottleneck is not innovation. It is commercial deployment at operating sites and access to real world validation environments. So access to operations is a bottleneck, and also these innovations, once we deploy them, can then spring in and advance manufacturing. Next slide. Ecosystem coordination and growth. For those of you who know me, networking is one of my favorite subjects. Canada's mining innovation ecosystem is growing, and with more domestic innovation centers, academic institutions, and other industry groups getting involved and looking for resource support. So we have an opportunity to expand the ecosystem, have that cross-sector engagement happening, coordinating and convening the ecosystem so that we can then have that global impact. So Canada's mining sector will benefit from greater diversity of ideas and cross-sector interactions and deliver solutions to the world. For those of you who were with us in MICA-1, our technology focus areas were productivity, energy, smart, and environment. And then as we rolled out MICA-1, we recognized the need for us to have sub-themes, which were the critical minerals and metals, circularity, ESG, and license to operate. If you put a big plus between MICA-1 and MICA-2, MICA-2 is now looking at production efficiency and competitiveness, an area of major importance to our government. And in fact, our Prime Minister is always speaking about productivity. Digitalization and autonomization is also going to be an important new theme, sustainability, social, and environmental stewardship. Now, what I'm going to do is expand a little bit on the new MICA themes. So when we look at production, efficiency, and competitiveness, here we're talking about increasing mine production, obviously lowering those costs. Things like energy solutions, enhanced material handling and processing become very important on that pillar. The next pillar, focus area, digitalization and autonomization, applied industrial AI, autonomization, and coordination of equipment, workforce enhancement, and augmentation. The third pillar, sustainability, social and environmental stewardship, license to operate, sustainable practices, and also that proactive monitoring and reporting, including decarbonization as well. MICA-2 is going to have 3 funding streams. For those of you who remember MICA-1, we had really one call for proposal with one big stream for funding, but we've since learned a few lessons along the way. So stream 1 for MICA-2 is technology demonstration, looking at technology development for on-site demonstrations, technology validation, and industrial trials, working with the rest of the ecosystem to advance these technology demonstration projects. Stream number 2, commercialization and innovation adoption, first-of-a-kind deployments, pilot installations, and technology integration for that market entry. The third stream, scale-up projects, manufacturing scale-up and supply chain development, full-scale operational deployments, multi-site deployments. As I mentioned earlier on, MICA-2 is going to focus on the higher level technology readiness levels. So TRL, for those of you who don't know the terminology, technology readiness level. MICA-2 focuses on the critical stage where technologies move from development to real-world deployment. So that TRL level 7 to 9, again, if you recall the previous slides, those three funding streams, technology demonstrations, pilot demonstrations, pilot deployments, and scale-up is where we're going to be focusing with our MICA-2. We are upgrading our membership model, and we will have the following 4 membership types. Individuals, this is for students, professionals, and subject matter experts. Startups and SMEs, companies under 500 employees. And I'm going to expand a little bit on the SMEs in a moment. Associates, these are friends of MICA, not-for-profits, innovation centers, and institutions with their own networks as well that we can tap into. Mine operators, operators with active mine sites, and I will be elaborating a little bit more on the mine sites, on the mine operators in a moment. On the SME membership model, we've updated it a little bit. So we now have got 3 different streams. Entry, this is at a no cost. It's a basic MICA profile, ecosystem visibility. Our core membership level, this provides you things like workshops and training, global summit discounts, promotional codes, and special offers, including things like webinars. And growth is our premium membership model for SMEs, and this includes strategic advisory, B2B matchmaking, spotlight, and promotion. And I want to add one thing here too, is that the junior mining companies who are not yet operational mines, they can also qualify under the SME umbrella. So moving on now to talk about the mining operator model. So our new mining company operator model is going to have 4 different pillars to it as well. So the entry level is for those mine operators who don't really want to be as active in the MICA network, but yet want access to select MICA services, including our communications and events, etc. Supporter is the next pillar for mining company operators to be a member. MICA network access with increased visibility, with an emphasis on relationship building and thought leadership. Our third model for mining companies is collaborator, closer to the innovation, engaging in events, workshops, roundtables, and actively building the ecosystem. And our premium membership level for mine operators is partner, full access to MICA programming and online portal, including solution scouting with our technology matchmaking in the background. We'll be taking advantage of AI to do some really good matching in the background, including some curated service activities as well. So that's the membership model that we have for the MICA network as we advance it and renew and expand. MICA is creating a pan-Canadian national network, the connector and accelerator of the Mining Innovation Network, MICA. MICA-2 will connect, complement, and extend and expand ecosystem activities across Canada. I think as Carl mentioned earlier on, we have traveled the country, and here's some of the observations. Canada has got so many capabilities that are just not connected. They're disconnected. So what we've been doing with MICA is establishing those connections and then allowing the connectors to then connect individually. So you can think of this as a web. You can think of this as a neural network. You can think of this as connecting the unconnected, networks of networks being connected together. This is what MICA-2 is establishing, a truly networked innovation ecosystem that I think once we establish it fully connected, will position Canada for future success. I did mention that we will have a few new initiatives that we're going to be launching with MICA-2. Smart Mines. Smart Mines is about partnering with mine operators. So for the mine operators on the call today, we want to create designated sites where innovative technologies can be demonstrated and validated in real mining environments. So you can put up your hand if you want your mine site to be designated as a Smart Mines. Ecosystem Connect, a national digital platform that improves visibility, connectivity, and collaboration across Canada's mining innovation ecosystem and networking MICA members. This is again leveraging the digital to ensure the connectivity between our ecosystem is as best in class. Testing network. connecting innovation centers, sandboxes, pilot facilities, and technology validation environments. Again, we've traveled the country, have seen the resources that are out there. Again, we want to connect them so that they can be more visible to the end users who need them. Missions, connecting Canadian mining innovators with provincial, national, and international markets through coordinated technology missions, inbound, outbound missions that can promote, including missions within our 10 provinces and 3 territories to make sure that the made in Canada technologies proliferate throughout all the provinces. So with MICA-2, we will have a call for proposal process. So MICA plans to implement a streamlined call for proposal process focused on technologies ready for real world deployment. So we'll start off with that opportunity identification. We'll have an intake process, ranking, and when we do the ranking, we really want to have that strong evidence of market pool, an evaluation of the full proposals where we do the validation, and then there's a project selection, approvals, and then announcement, obviously, for funded project. Our approach for corporate proposals is industry-informed and driven, an industry-driven project selection process. Project outcomes. So for the $148 million investment that we're looking for, MICA-2 will significantly expand Canada's ability to deploy and scale mining innovation. And some of the areas of impact include over 200 projects will be supported through MICA-2 to create those scaled up solutions. Job creation. We anticipate 800 plus jobs to be created through the MICA-2 network. Regional missions, as I mentioned, regional missions, 10 provinces, 3 territories. We want to be able to bring in emissions from province to province and have that provincial trade improved. Productivity gains, we will be looking for technologies that can make that significant difference in the mining operators for productivity. Again, when it comes to the environmental side, we want to have those ESG impacts that are going to improve our performance. Global missions, right now we've got 7 different global jurisdictions where we want to strengthen relationships, and this is in line with the approach that's been taken by our government to develop global relationships. Recently, the MOU signed with Peru, for example. Private sector investment. On the private sector investment, we envision to be able to mobilize over 500 million in public-private sector investments through the projects that we'll be funding in MICA. And again, this results in wealth creation of Canadian SMEs. Export development, that goes with the global missions, expanding our network, skill development. I think we all know that right now there is a looming skill shortage in the mining industry. So with MICA-2, we want to be able to contribute to creating the jobs of the future through the technologies that we're supporting. And all this enhances the competitiveness of the Canadian mining sector as compared to what's happening around the world. So there's a call to action. What can we do together? We would like to ask the ecosystem to help us shape Canada's next phase of mining innovation leadership. And to do this, we would like to ask you to endorse MICA-2, be a strategic partner, and also to be able to submit innovation ideas into our network. And we'll be providing you means to do so. So in terms of next steps and timelines, the renewal and expansion of the MICA network depends on securing support for the MICA-2 initiative. So today, what we've done today is spoken to the ecosystem. So this is part of our engagement, giving an overview of what we're thinking about. We'll also be asking you for letters of support, which will be coming next in our next steps. And we're also going to be looking at strengthening the strategic partnerships that we have and concluding discussions and continuing discussions with our federal partners. As we move into the spring, we see the endorsement of MICA coming in forms of letters and communications from the ecosystem itself, and also continuing conversations with the Strategic Response Fund, which is a part of the department ISED. In June, this is part of our hope and intent, is that we'll have a federal decision in June and then move into August, maybe the beginnings of the summer in full swing, have an approval for MICA and be able to launch the expanded and renewed MICA network. This is a critical moment for Canada's mining innovation ecosystem. So now I'm going to turn over the floor to you, our audience, and ask if you have any questions that we may be able to answer. In the event that we cannot answer some of your questions, we will document all the questions and be able to provide you those answers by email as well. So what we're going to do is actually read out a question before we answer it, so that everybody on the call can understand which question we are going to be answering. Okay. So maybe I'll just pick the first question that I'm seeing here. Is there a role for EPs and OEMs in the new MICA to help innovators excel? Oh, definitely. And this is a question from Anthony Downs. Definitely. You know, Anthony, some of the technologies that are being developed through the MICA network can only be commercialized if they partner with someone with an existing platform. So we do have that piece as well. And then also when it comes to scaling some of the technologies, some of our SMEs are really too small to be able to globally scale technology on their own. So there's room for them to work with our OEMs as well. I know Douglas or Carl, do you want to add on to this answer?
Hey. No, I think that was a very good answer. I'm very happy with what you have to say there. Sorry,
okay,
Carl.
No problem. Maybe we'll move on to the next question. The question here is, does a CEMI membership translate into a MICA membership, or is this separate? So CEMI technically has no membership in itself. However, with CEMI, we can have commercial agreements for various activities that we can do with you. MICA is the one with the membership model. So being associated with CEMI on a project does not automatically make you a MICA member, because the MICA membership is very specific to what the network has to offer. Question here is, from the first look of things, it seems MICA is not visible in the territories. What is MICA doing to reach the territories, considering mining plays a major role to their economies? Thank you for that question, Kuzai, and you're correct. We don't have a partner yet established in the territories, but we did put in our proposal that we are going to be reaching out, in particular to the Yukon and Nunavut and Northwest Territories, to be able to establish partners on the ground. I know there's a Yukon Mining Innovation Center that we are seriously looking at connecting with. And again, Kuzi, you know, if you are in a position to be able to introduce us to other connections within the territories, we will be more than happy to work on those as well. Okay, I'm looking at the chat box. I'm not seeing any other questions. Maybe we'll just wait a couple moments to see if anyone else comes up with a question. You can also email us questions on our email. We'll be able to check that as well and answer questions. There's a hand up. Gia, can I allow someone to speak, or do they have to type their question?
If they could type it in, that would be ideal. But there's also a handful of questions in the chat here.
In the chat, go ahead.
So will smart mines be identified? Can MICA-1 members contact them? So I think what we're thinking here is it's going to be a result of a partnership that we have with a mine operator or mine operators, where, yes, the site will be identified, but they will have a process for accessing that site and engaging them in that initiative.
That question. Someone here made a comment that they're building a mining cluster in Finland, and some teachers from Bremen recommended MICA as a benchmark and look forward to building strong cooperation with MICA. No, thank you for that comment. And I will let you know that it's not just Finland, you know, that has seen our network and our philosophy and our setup as being, you know, an example. We're getting similar requests from other countries as well for something similar. Thank you for that comment.
There's also a question here around the role small and medium scale mining companies can play in this. And in fact, we've seen great traction with technologies finding their way onto some of the mid-tier companies, because you're looking for a competitive edge. And oftentimes these technologies or these new technologies will be able to provide that competitive edge. So there is a role for you to play. You can get engaged, you can participate, and we'd be happy to support you in identifying solutions that might exist in the network that will help address any of the challenges that you might be seeing or experiencing on site.
Excellent. There's a question here. What happens with companies after TRL 7? Do you continue to provide support? So the goal is to find companies that are at the TRL level 7 and move them up towards the TRL 9 piece. You know, the one beautiful thing about MICA is that MICA doesn't operate in isolation of the rest of the innovation support ecosystem across Canada, right? So we actually will connect companies to organizations that can give them even more support. But the key thing is that, you know, that we identify who the companies that need support and then move them forward. But we do have some internal services where we can help them, for example, with opening up markets. Our global outreach program can bring technologies that are ready for deployment in foreign markets to those markets as well. And then also within MICA, you know, we're always showcasing new technologies so they can actually be adopted by the mining companies.
So another one here, Chamurai, would you consider MICA-1 partners to participate in MICA-2, or are you looking for new partnerships?
Yeah, I think we're definitely looking for well, look, our existing partnerships. We want to strengthen our existing partnerships. For the new partnerships that are coming online, we are very welcome to new partnerships. And again, as we have been saying, the Canadian mining innovation or the Canadian innovation support ecosystem is strong, but not connected sufficiently enough for mining in particular. So we are looking for new partners that we can work with to strengthen our innovation ecosystem so we can do more.
Then we got one from here about Oscar about the membership tier, the growth tier there, envisioning the matchmaking service for startups. So maybe I'll answer this one. Chamurai, Oscar, that and for everyone else here, that membership model is actually what we're looking to do with our revised membership model is to make the MICA network more accessible while also valuing the time required that goes into building some of those relationships and helping companies with those more, I would say, nuanced advisory services. So it actually won't be much more than the current MICA membership, but what we envision is being able to be a little bit more hands-on with the companies that are receiving funding from us for projects. So as an ultimate recipient, Rockburst, you're already there. We've got things in the works. But for other companies that are considering MICA membership, there will be specific services that come along with that, those various tiers that will be articulated in the coming month.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Another question here from Mike. The question is, equity investors like VCs are more open to companies where tech and traction have been de-risked, like TRL 7+. Is MICA partnering, collaborating with them? Oh, definitely. And, you know, this is something that we want to do more intentionally now. I think if you remember, you know, Kyle mentioned that we invested $33 million of the public's money, and we're able to have an 8 times multiplier on that with following investment from the private and public sector. So we recognize that the VCs are paying attention. In fact, they're paying attention because when MICA validates and supports an innovation, it builds the confidence in the private market that this is something worthy of attention. So definitely we'll be partnering with different VCs in that we want to make sure that the companies we're supporting are ready for the private market when they're ready for that scale up that needs a whole lot more money than we're able to provide through the MICA network.
So Chairman, we got a couple more here. A lot of focus on this TRL level distinction. Mm-hmm. So Don Toporowski, why the focus on the later TRLs? You want to handle that?
Yeah, you know what, the focus on the later TRLs really goes back to our genesis. You know, when CEMI started, we literally took ideas off of professors' notepads and started working to develop them. But what we recognized is that it took too long for those ideas to actually get to market. So as time went forward, we recognized that if we're going to make a significant impact on the operators that are operating now, we need to support technologies that are near market ready and needing that fine tuning to move them forward. So if Canada is going to be able to react to the global demands for critical minerals, defense minerals, energy minerals, we need to deploy technologies that can actually be used in operations. So hence the focus on that later stage. The other piece I should say is that our nation, Canada, does a fabulous job in supporting early stage TRL. We've got MITEX, we've got NSERC, we've got various regional development agencies that are supporting early stage. When it comes to the stage where we are now, that TRL 7, 9+, there's a depth of support in this area. And so this is an area where we are playing a role. MICA-1 taught us that we need to go up the TRL a little bit more so that we can actually have more impact on the industry. Douglas, or Kyle, you want to add on to that answer?
Yeah, sure. I think it's fair to say that when we started MICA, there was no background in where we should start. And we did have the idea that we could start lower down the TRL scale. But what we discovered very, very quickly was that the major gap in the spectrum of development that has to happen is at the higher TRL level. And so that's why we've gradually moved ourselves forward. Through MICA-1, we've been able to bring companies forward from TRL 5 and 6 through to 7 and 8. But again, it's still a struggle to get to be fully commercially viable in the marketplace. And that is why we've shifted slightly with MICA-2 to focus on this most difficult phase, because we've all recognized that MICA is particularly, mining is particularly important. We need more minerals and more metals to be produced to get to the energy transition. And that means we have to have new ways of doing things. And that's really the purpose. So in order to have a short-term impact, you have to be close to the marketplace. When you're still in the research phase at university or even in the development phase, TRL 5, you're still a long way from the marketplace. Our objective is to move things that are close to the market to be effective in the market as soon as possible.
Again, I would encourage folks, if you have feedback, you want it to be, you want a chance to have your piece and have it integrated into what we're thinking here, complete the feedback form, identify what you're thinking. The other thing I would say is the eligibility requirements and the details around those 3 streams aren't totally solidified yet. Okay. If you look at the 3 streams, I think there is going to be a role, or at least a place for, I don't want to say lower TRL levels, but there might be the opportunity for where you can see yourself as a company participating in 1 or 2 of those other streams. Okay, so just wait for the details to come out when they do. The eligibility criteria, will be might have some wiggle room in it. You never know how these things play out. But again, the focus on the 7 to 9 TRL levels, I think, has been well articulated by both Doug and Shamrock.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the other thing that's true is, remember, a lot of our proponents are actually coming forward with technologies that are physical technologies that have to be executed in reality. If you're dealing with developments in software, software can move up the TRL scale much faster than can something that has to be built or prototyped and developed in a physical environment. So yes, there is a place, and one of our examples earlier was that case, Rhythmic. It's a computer-based system, and so they can move up the TRL scale much faster than physical developments. And so there is a role for the lower TRL things to move through the system to get to TRL 9, but we're actually primarily focused on physical results for the physical world, if you like.
Thank you for that. Moving on to the other questions. There's a question here about how many smart mines are in the network at the moment. So the Smart Mines Initiative is going to be a new initiative. However, when we look at our track record that was provided by Kyle, we have already identified 17 mine operators who have already engaged in the commercial uptake of some of those technologies that we're moving forward. So we will be going to all the mines that are currently engaging with us and identify the ones that would like to become identified as smart mines. I want to add one really important point here is that we are not going to approach these mines in isolation of the innovation ecosystem that already has established relationships with some of the mine operators. And this is a shift in how we're going to be working with mining companies, that we truly want to leverage the organizations that have got established relationships in their different regional areas and strengthen our connection with mine operators by leveraging the existing relationships that are on the ground.
So I put this slide up here because just to reiterate what the next steps are associated with moving MICA-2 forward.
Okay, thank you for that.
So
just
to answer the question, sorry, we're looking for you to endorse MICA-2 so that you can do that through the feedback form. All right, there is an option for you to endorse through the feedback form. We will also be following up this presentation with a copy of the slides, Again, reiterating the feedback form. And when we move towards looking for those letters of supports and further endorsement, we'll be reaching out to you. That will be kind of in the next month or so when we get clarity on exact details and timelines from our friends at ISED. All right, so that's the immediate term.
Thank you for that. There's a question here on a company with a technology, I think it was Regen X Tech. One of the most interesting things we're finding now is that the technologies that are disrupting the mining industry are actually coming from other industries. And we've been able as MICA to play a translating role in being able to educate and inform these new technology entrants into the mining sector with already proven solutions that work elsewhere on how they can work in the mining industry, and including, referring them to the various components in the mining ecosystem that can support the technology. So Fabricio, to your question, yes, MICA can definitely help you make the necessary connections that you need to advance your technology so that it can be utilized within the mining industry, or at least so you can assess applicability of your technology for utilization within the mining industry.
Another one here from our friend Janelle, we best get to. So what will the call for proposals in August or later look like, and who will it be open to?
Yeah, so this is a moving target in a way because we actually don't have an approval yet for MICA-2. So we will keep you posted. This is our best case scenario in terms of just our timelines with all the resources that we have right now and our thinking about when we are best able to mobilize that level of engagement. So we are unable to give you a very concrete answer, but what you have is also our best case scenario that we provided on what could potentially happen moving forward.
Yeah. I think it's also fair to say that it'll be based on the model that we've used with MICA-1. Mm-hmm. And in MICA-1, from the calls for proposals to a final decision on funding was about 3 months. We tried to keep it as fast as possible because we understand that for SMEs to be waiting for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months to get a decision is torturous. And so we came up with a process that we hope will continue to move these things through the decision-making process as fast as possible.
Okay, thank you for that.
There's a question from UBC here that I think is worth answering, and it's provide some clarification on the anticipated total funding envelope, including how many projects you expect to support and over what time frame, given the program's high TRL levels, etc. here. So just based on some of the, I don't want to get too into the weeds here or commit to numbers, but should we be successful in our request for $148 million, a significant chunk of those will be going towards the scale-up projects. And if you look at the projects that we supported with MICA-1, we're very transparent about the funding that companies have received. Some of the highest the highest funded projects are about $1.3 million in terms of funded projects. We require a 3-to-1 match. So to be able to unlock $1 million from us, there needs to be at least a $3 million project, involved. When we're looking at MICA-2 and scaling that up, we might be looking at projects. We might be able to be funding projects to the scale of $2 to $3 million, potentially a little bit more, depending on what ISED allows us to do. Again, if you extrapolate and you say, hey, well, then there's got to be a 3-to-1 match. We're looking at projects in the scale of 10 to 12 to $15 million. Okay. But for those, there is going to need to be a very strong market pull, and you're going to have one or more industry partners at the table.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Kyle. There's a question here around the need to provide cash or in-kind contributions in the letters of support. So these letters of support are not looking for you to provide your in-kind contribution. What we're trying to do is get a gauge for what the volume of request looks like from the ecosystem. So it's going to be really light in terms of what we're asking for the letters of support, in particular when it comes to technologies that we're requesting. But I should let you know upfront that with MICA-1, we have not matched in-kind and cash. So in other words, the in-kind is not matchable with the MICA program.
Yeah. I think you can also go back, Charles, to MICA-1 when we first started. we actually identified nearly 400 SMEs who were interested in participating in MICA-1, and we've actually only funded 70 projects. So basically, we have been able to fund roughly 20% of the innovation capacity that we found across the country in 2022. And the innovation capacity has increased and the demand for innovation in the mining sector has increased. And that's why we're trying to adjust the program to take account of the changes that have happened in the last 5-6 years.
Thank you for that.
Don't see any more rolling in. So if that's the case, maybe we say thank you everyone for participating. Jeremy?
Yeah, maybe let's give it a minute and see if anyone else wants to ask a question.
Again, folks, if you have a question, please type it either into the chat or the Q&A. I see a couple hands up.
Yeah, if you bring a hand up, just maybe type your question. We are unable to unmute you to talk, so you'll have to type your question in here, please. Thank you. Maybe as we wrap things up, again, you know, for those of you who use your phones a lot, scan the code on the screen here, please, so that you can fill out our feedback form so that we can gauge who is interested in working with us moving forward. But again, you know, I want to take the moment to thank everybody for coming on the call. And for those of you who speak French or who would like to hear the presentation spoken in French, 4 to 5 p.m. today is going to be our French presentation. So you get to hear what we've just said here to you in your natural language. And so we'll be more than happy to host you on that as well. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in, and we've got 3 minutes to go to the end of the hour. So we'll say goodbye now and looking forward to working with all of you and with our government and other partners as we build up the Canadian mining innovation ecosystem. Thank you for attending. Have a good day.
Thank you.